Hello guys, how's it going? It's me Martin, and I'm here once again doing a PS Plus games of March 2020. Now, I think this month was fantastic. Like last month was really great, and I think this month is even better than that. So, let us get started. I can't believe that we're already getting Final Fantasy VII Remake as a PS Plus game just a year after this game came out. It is fantastic. So let's start. Final Fantasy VII is a third-person action-adventure RPG with real-time combat and some elements of turn-based strategy. Now, let me just say that I think the combat in this game is incredible. It is very fun and very fast-paced with a lot of strategy in it from all the different moves and elemental weaknesses and things you can do. You have 4 different characters to play as, so you can switch between in combat depending on which mission you're in and what characters you're playing as at the moment. They all have their really cool abilities, and by clicking X, you can go into like this menu where you could choose all these cool abilities and elemental attacks and items and stuff that you can do, and it just adds so much depth to the combat. It is great. And to add to that, you have many different enemies that have their own moves that, like, it telegraphs above their head, like, what moves they're gonna do, so you know if you should block or dodge. And thankfully, enemies don't have that many different attacks, so it's not, like, super hard to remember all of them. And with that, you have 25 amazing boss fights in just the main game, plus a couple of side bosses and like VR missions and such. And it's just amazing boss fights in this game, like really, really great. Now, let's move on to like the side objectives and side missions. This game has some side missions, and they're alright. They're fine, they're solid, some of them are interesting. It's just a way to play more of the game. They're not really anything too grand to dive into, but they're fine. You got some decent mini games, they're alright. But I think the best part of this game is just the arena challenges and virtual combat simulator challenges. Like, it's just more of the fantastic combat of this game. Now, let's talk about something other than gameplay. The graphics look beautiful. They're stylish, they have like their own style, and they look amazing. The colors and everything, and there's just moments where the game looks absolutely beautiful. And the story and the characters, I think, are fantastic as well. The story of, like, you play as this mercenary and you're with the eco-terrorist group known as Avalanche, and you're fighting against a corporation known as Shinra. That's all I'm gonna say about the story for now. I want you to dive into it and see it for yourself, but it goes to a lot, it does a lot, and it's really fantastic and really dives deep into the Final Fantasy story. And I think all the characters are super likable, and they have their own, like, some of them have their own character arcs, and all of them are deep in their own way, and I really like all of them. Now, this game does feel a little padded and bloated at some points. There's some missions that feel like they go on for a little bit too long, and some sections of the game that I feel just have like some too much combat sections, but overall, I wouldn't say that it's super padded. Um, I think my biggest problem with this game is that this is only part one of the story of like the Final Fantasy VII story, and I feel like it ends at a good point. Like, it doesn't end like in the middle of the game. It doesn't feel like it ends at a bad point. It feels like it ends like at a really nice point where you feel satisfied that it ended. But still, there's a lot of plot points and character arcs and stuff that feel like didn't really lead anywhere, and they're probably setting up for the sequel, and that's something to complain about. But overall, I don't think it's that big of a problem, and it was handled well. And so this game, for me, I think is a very, very solid 10 out of 10. And in my personal opinion, this is the top game of last year, 2020. And probably gonna be the best PS Plus game of this year, but we'll just have to wait and see. And the second PS Plus game is a game I also really like, Remnant from the Ashes. Now, Remnant is a third-person shooter, Souls-like game with a randomly generated world where you go through dungeons, you do boss fights, and both are randomly generated to get resources for upgrading and XP for leveling up. It's very simple, but it is a lot of fun with a very fun loop of going through dungeons, bosses that are randomly generated, all that. First of all, it has a perfect challenge. It is challenging and difficult, but not too much, and I feel like it keeps a perfect balance, at least on your first playthrough. And I find the combat of rolling around and shooting enemies to be very fun, with some very good enemy design and variety. There's a lot of different enemies and the 4 different fun and interesting worlds that there are that are littered with interesting NPCs to talk to. You also have some amazing bosses that are challenging and really fun and different from each other. So fantastic boss quality. You got some great progression with a lot of different cool weapons and gear and a lot of good stuff to really customize like yourself and how you play the game. Now, I think the one flaw with this game, or well, there's 2 flaws, but the major flaw, the story is forgettable. It's nothing interesting or intriguing or anything. Like, you got some cool NPCs that you can find in the world, but the story itself, forgettable. Like, not really the focus. Also, the game does get kind of repetitive, like on multiple playthroughs, which you're meant to go through this game multiple times to get better loot and gear and upgrade yours and all of this. And it's not that repetitive, but I do feel like playing a lot will get to a point where it does feel pretty repetitive. Still, this is a very high recommendation, a very strong and solid 9 out of 10 for its really fun, fast-paced shooting combat and some really cool gear and just an all-around amazing experience. Oh yeah, I should probably also talk about the Play at Home event. So Sony is, for the next 4 months, giving away 1 free game every month from March, April, May, and June. And March's game is the Ratchet & Clank remake in 2016. Now, Ratchet & Clank is a third-person action-adventure shooter with some light platforming. Now, let's get to it. What I like about this game, first of all, I think the game looks really good. It looks very nice. It has some very colorful environments, and overall, it looks good. And I think the combat is a lot of fun with a lot of different weapons and a solid enemy variety. Sadly, though, it is just the same like combat and weapons from like older games, but just done like a little bit weaker in my opinion. But still, it is fun. Now let's get to what I don't like. I think the story and the characters are incredibly generic and forgettable. The story tries no risks and is just very boring and lame throughout. The characters are boring, the story is incredibly forgettable, just shite. There's nothing here of value, and even the humor in this game, like, cutscenes you can skip at least, but like, in-game dialogue you can't, and some of it is dreadful, like some incredibly unfunny jokes and just really annoying, like always talking in gameplay. It's just painful. And overall, I just feel like this game overall is just kind of forgettable. Like, it's an okay game, a 6 out of 10. It's entertaining and enjoyable, like, but I'm not gonna say it's anything special or really worth playing. You can have some fun from it, especially if you haven't played any other Ratchet and Clank games, but overall, 6 out of 10. Maybe give it a try. And that will be all the free games of March. Seriously, thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some good recommendations for what you should play. I'll see you guys next time. Have a wonderful day.